A short description of Second John and Third John is these are short letters, y'all, that he wrote with a pastoral heart, but his words carry weight. They're not vague, and he's not being passive. He's protecting truth, guarding love, and addressing how believers are meant to walk, because false teaching and pride can try to slip in quietly. Now, in Second John, he begins by grounding believers with assurance. He speaks of grace, mercy, and peace. And he's not merely wishing these things over the church, y'all. He's declaring that these gifts, which comes directly from God the Father and Jesus Christ the Son, will certainly remain with those who walk with truth and love. These aren't abstract ideas at all. They're realities that stay with believers who remain anchored in Christ, and he wanted to make that clear. John then draws a connection between love and obedience. Love isn't defined by emotion, affection, or intention. According to John, love is expressed through obedience to God's commandments. Now, this aligns with what he's already taught elsewhere, and loving God means keeping his commandments, and those commandments are not meant to be a burden. They are not. Obedience isn't the enemy of love, it's the evidence of love. And one of the clearest expressions of obedience is loving one another in truth. In truth. Now, from there, John goes on to issue a serious warning. He speaks about deceivers and false teachers who've gone beyond the original apostolic eyewitness about Jesus Christ. These aren't people who are simply confused, y'all. These are people who move past what was revealed and witnessed by those who walked with Jesus. John then goes on to make it clear that anyone who doesn't remain in true teaching about Jesus doesn't have God. Not at all. But the one who remains in that teaching has both the Father and the Son. He goes on to say that truth isn't something we upgrade or expand beyond Christ. We don't have to. It's just something we remain in Christ. Now, because of this danger, John urges believers to be watchful, and he warns them not to lose what they've worked so hard for. This isn't about losing salvation. He refers to the work already done in the church or in building the church, serving the community, and spreading the gospel. If false teachers were allowed to influence the church without resistance, that work can be undermined and the foundation of that church will become unstable. The reward connected to faithful labor is put at risk when that's allowed. John then addresses hospitality and fellowship. Now, when he instructs believers not to welcome or publicly greet false teachers, he's not calling for cruelty or insult at all. He's basically saying in that culture, publicly greeting someone as a brother or sister was an act of endorsement. And to do so would signal agreement with the false teacher's teaching. John's concern is very clear. Believers must not give the impression that false teaching about Jesus is acceptable, because to publicly endorse it would be to participate in its harm. John closes 2 John with greetings that reveal something important. It's the children of the elect city, of the elect sister who sends greetings, not the sister herself. Now, this most likely refers to members of a faithful sister church where John's staying, where he writes. And it shows interconnected nature of the early church. It also shows John's active involvement among multiple congregations. Moving on to John, the third John, y'all. He shifts from warnings to encouragements. He writes personally to Gaius, affirming that Gaius is spiritually healthy. John prays that Gaius' physical well-being matches the strength of his spiritual life. And y'all notice the order here. Spiritual health is the standard, and physical condition isn't the measure of faith. When you're healthy spiritually, you're healthy everywhere else. Now, faithfulness is measured by truth, love, and obedience. John then addresses a troubling figure called Diotrephes. Now, Diotrephes, he appears to be powerful and influential leader in another local church. But he's arrogant, He's resistant to accountability and he's dismissive of John's authority. He refuses guidance, he spreads accusations, and he blocks traveling missionaries. This isn't a minor disagreement now, it's a leadership issue rooted in pride and control. Spiritual authority is meant to serve the church, not protect personal influence. But that's how Diotrephes was. John explains that if he comes, he'll confront this behavior directly, not in a fight or anything, but, a truthful conversation. And this shows that spiritual authority isn't passive, and love doesn't remain silent when truth and unity are being harmed. It also becomes clear that Gaius and Diotrephes are connected to different churches, possibly in the same region, and John intends to address both situations personally. He then goes on to speak positively about Demetrius. Now, Demetrius is someone Gaius likely hasn't met yet, possibly a leader among the traveling missionaries. And John openly commends him, stating that his reputation aligns with truth, and the contrast is intentional. And he goes on to say prideful leadership that blocks the work of God and faithful servants who walk in truth deserve support. John closes John 3, much like he closed 2nd John. He has more to say, but he prefers face to face conversation because letters have value, but personal presence, they matter. It also suggests that John plans to visit soon, possibly addressing both churches during the same journey. Together with 2nd John and 3rd John, it teaches us that truth and love can't be separated. It must go hand in hand. Love must be rooted in the truth, and truth must be lived out in love. False teaching must be discerned, and pride must be confronted. Now, these letters remind us that truth still matters, even when it's unpopular, and that love without truth eventually stops being love. Protecting the gospel isn't harshness, not at all. It's stewardship. And walking in truth, it isn't optional. It's the mark of those who truly belong to God. Remain in what is true, walk in love, and don't compromise the gospel to keep peace.